The next dimension to explore in this episode on Miyazaki and Miyazaki's art is the creativeness dimension of the AIC triple spiral. And creativeness is about the implementation, the processes, the actions, the habits that bring something into the world. And we will try to think about what makes this a great work by looking at these dimensions. Why is this creative? And we can start with Miyazaki's unique approach to the development of the story itself. Okay, so Miyazaki prefers a certain form of organic development of the story. He actually starts from visuals, and there are many incidents, many stories on this. He doesn't start with a complete script that is ready and he has full visibility on the whole thing and where it will end and what is the lesson we will learn and so on. No, starts by drawing some characters and some scenes, and the visual storyboards then develop into becoming the film overall, right? So it is very organic, and it is as if the story itself was alive. And this is why Miyazaki sometimes says, I'm just a tool, and things are just happening. And it is as if the film itself is alive, it develops itself. But interestingly, you can see this in some of the scenes. It appears as if the objects and the characters are breathing and coming into life. He says, it is not me who is making the film is doing the work, and I'm just a tool. So this organic development of the story, this use of storyboards, might be tricky as implementation, right? If you were the producer and somebody comes and says, okay, I have this great image, let's make it into a film, and he doesn't give you the whole picture, you might feel that this is dangerous. But this unique approach to world building allows for so much richness and allows for a unique texture in these films. And it might be one of the reasons for the emotional resonance of some of these films that we always talk about. Another dimension of this is the what I call the man versus the machine theme. Miyazaki insists a lot on drawing by hand, and this is one of the key defining characteristics of his work. He says, do everything by hand, even when using the computer. And again, this focus on the importance of the craft, using your hand, is a defining characteristic for a number of reasons. One, it allows for more authenticity. And Miyazaki believes this. Miyazaki believes that animators should be reflecting their soul, their spirit. He uses these words when drawing the images themselves. And this could be related to the theme of imperfections, right? The imperfections reflect part of the creator's soul in the work of art. There is more authenticity that is reflected in this. It becomes more labor intensive, right? The process becomes more difficult, and you as a creator become more engrossed into the details. And this is part of the creative process, part of the organic creative process that defines Miyazaki's work. And again, it might be one of the reasons behind the strong emotional resonance in some of these films. Miyazaki himself has become sort of a symbol of resistance with this attitude of insisting on hand-drawn imagery. And here we might ask a question: does it really take away from the author's authenticity or from the creator's authenticity if they use technology too much? Miyazaki actually says something about this. He says, the world isn't just made of technology or big ideas. And this is very relevant to our discussion on detail and texture that defines creativity. So he says the world isn't just made of technology or big ideas. It's the small things, the wind, the trees, a child laughing, that matter, right? And so this labor intensiveness is part of what Miyazaki defines as creativity. And he says, if you don't spend enough time working on what you love, you will never truly master it. One more point here, talking about implementation, is the importance of distribution, the importance of marketing for the success of some of these things. And I read something a couple of weeks back, and it said basically that true art doesn't really exist. It's all very subjective. It all boils down to distribution. This is something very interesting and deep to consider. And Spirited Away, which is the film that succeeded the most commercially out of all Miyazaki's work. And incidentally, I don't think it is necessarily the best. I don't know if we can say the best, but it succeeded the most, partly because of a partnership with Disney that a Disney executive, which was the Pixar co founder, Lasseter was his name. He supervised the creation of a high quality English dub and the launch, the distribution of this film in America. And this sort of facilitated the success of the film. The film got a lot of acclaim. It is really beautiful and it got a number of awards, including at the Berlin Film Festival, and it got the Academy Award. And so after this film, Miyazaki became more accepted, more successful, right? But here we can reflect on this non-linear nature of success. Sometimes it waits for the right moment, the right conditions, and we know that in the early 2000s, anime was really taking off with Dragon Ball and all of these other popular series, Pokemon. And so maybe it was the right moment and it achieved this huge success, partly also because of the partnership with Disney, which highlights the importance of good distribution, good marketing, and using the existing models and frameworks to reach the wider audience. And we always talk about universality when we talk about Miyazaki. A final point here, and this is a recurring theme for us, what I call work is life. And this couldn't be more obvious than in the case of Miyazaki. We said that he prefers handcrafted, detailed work of the artist. Right? This makes everything labor intensive. Miyazaki himself was involved in all aspects of his film, going into all the details. Again, a very labor intensive endeavor. And finally, the funny story of Miyazaki's continuous retirement, right? He always says, "This is my last film, I will retire," and then comes back for one film. He does it again and he does it again. And so he's not really quitting, right? And all of this highlights the value of this work and how this work itself, because it's so closely related to the soul of the artist, the soul of the creator, doesn't really end.